Rereading the same line multiple times. Have you ever been reading something, a book, an article, a message, and suddenly realized you've read the same sentence 3, maybe 4 times, and still couldn't tell someone what it said? Your eyes moved, the words were there, but your brain completely checked out. It's one of those quiet, frustrating moments where you think, am I tired, distracted, broken? You're not. You're human. What's really happening is that your brain is doing 2 things at once, and failing politely. Part of you is reading, decoding the letters like a machine. The other part is wandering off, replaying a conversation, planning dinner, or thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. And the thing is, reading feels automatic, so your brain assumes you're absorbing information, even when you're not. This happens most when we're mentally overloaded or emotionally distracted. Stress, anxiety, boredom. They all hijack attention. So you keep looping back to the same line, hoping this time it'll stick. It's like knocking on a door repeatedly, waiting for your own focus to answer. There's also something comforting about it. Rereading is a way of slowing down without admitting we need to. It's your brain saying, hang on, I need a moment to catch up. And honestly, that little pause is doing more for you than you realize. So next time you reread the same sentence 5 times, don't get annoyed. That's not failure. It's your mind asking for space. And yes, you might reread this paragraph too. That's kind of the point. Touching their face. Constantly. Have you ever noticed how, no matter what we're doing, scrolling on our phone, thinking about something deep, waiting in line, our hands somehow make their way to our faces? A cheek rub here, a chin touch there, maybe a finger resting just under the lip like we're in some old detective movie. It's almost like our hands and faces have this secret relationship we never really agreed to. But why? Why can't we stop touching our faces, even when we know it's not great? Especially during cold season or, global pandemics. It starts earlier than you might expect. Even before we're born, babies in the womb are caught on ultrasounds touching their faces. It's soothing. It's one of the first ways we learn to calm ourselves. That's the funny part. It's not a bad habit. It's an ancient one. It's like our bodies murmuring, hey, it's okay, you're safe. Fast forward to adulthood, and the same thing happens when we're stressed, thinking hard, or even just bored. You might be deep in thought and suddenly your hand floats up to your chin. It's almost like your brain is saying, hang on, I need a physical connection to work through this thought. It's grounding, literally bringing our attention back to something tangible, our own skin. And sometimes it's not about emotion at all, it's sensory. Think about how sensitive the face is. It's packed with nerve endings. So when you touch it, even lightly, it creates a small spark of awareness. That sensation, subtle as it is, can be calming. It's the same reason people fidget with pens or tap their feet. It's movement meeting comfort. But there's a funny twist. The more we try not to touch our faces, the more we do it. Remember those health campaigns that said, keep your hands away from your face? Suddenly everyone became hyper-aware. And yet, 5 minutes later, there they were, rubbing their eyes or scratching their nose. That's classic human psychology. The moment something is forbidden, our brain keeps checking in to make sure we're not doing it, which ironically makes us do it. Here's another weird layer, social cues. Sometimes face-touching happens in conversations, almost like punctuation marks for our emotions. When we're embarrassed, we cover our cheeks. When we're shocked, we touch our mouth. When we're doubtful, our fingers land on our lips. These aren't random, they're part of our nonverbal language. They tell others what words can't. A hand over the face might mean, I'm unsure. A face rub might mean, I'm stressed. We don't plan these signals, they just happen. It's also contagious in a way. Ever been in a room where someone rubs their eyes and suddenly you're doing it too? It's like yawning. That subtle social mimicry that connects people without words. Humans are wired to copy each other's small gestures because in ancient times, that was a survival tool. It showed belonging. You moved like your tribe, you stayed with your tribe. So the next time your hand drifts up to your face, don't feel odd about it. It's your mind's quiet little hug. It's a sign that you're trying to regulate something. Focus, emotion, anxiety, or just energy. And honestly, it's one of those invisible human habits that remind us we're not machines. We're full of instincts, comfort signals, and micro movements that keep us steady in a noisy world. Of course, now that we've talked about it, I bet you're thinking about where your hands are right now, right? Maybe even resisting the urge to touch your cheek or rest your chin. Go ahead. No one's watching. It's strange, isn't it? How something so small can reveal so much about who we are. Anxious thinkers, emotional creatures, and comfort seekers all rolled into one. And trust me, that's not the only odd thing we do without realizing it. Wait till you hear about why we talk to ourselves. That one's a whole different kind of mystery, holding their breath while concentrating. Have you ever noticed that when you're really focused, solving a problem, typing something important, try not to mess up, you suddenly realize you're not breathing, or barely breathing. It's like your lungs went on standby without telling you, and the moment you notice it, you take this deep breath like you've been underwater. This happens because focus and breath are more connected than we think. When the brain locks onto something important, it shifts into a kind of precision mode. Everything unnecessary gets turned down, including breathing. Not because it helps, but because your body is prioritizing stillness and control. There's also an ancient layer to this. Early humans learned that being quiet and still meant survival. Holding your breath reduced movement. Less movement meant less attention. And even though you're now just staring at a screen, your nervous system doesn't really know the difference. The funny thing, holding your breath actually reduces oxygen, which makes thinking harder. But your body doesn't care. It's running an old script, one that says, focus first, breathe later. So if you ever catch yourself doing it, don't panic, take the breath. Your brain just got a little too serious for its own good. Talking to themselves. You ever catch yourself in the middle of a full-blown conversation with yourself? You're walking down the hallway or washing dishes and suddenly say something like, okay, if I leave at 9, I'll still make it on time. Or, why did I say that yesterday? Then you realize you're talking out loud to no one. And for a split second, you laugh or look around, half expecting someone to have heard you. But let's be honest, everyone does it. Some whisper, some mumble, some go full dramatic monologue. It's one of those strange things we don't think about much, because it feels so natural. But here's the funny part. Scientists say talking to yourself is actually one of the smartest things you can do. It's your brain thinking out loud. When you speak your thoughts instead of keeping them trapped in your head, they become clearer, more organized. You can hear what you really mean, not just what you think you mean. It's why athletes mutter to themselves before big games, "You got this, stay focused." It's why we rehearse what we'll say before a meeting or a tough conversation. We're not crazy. We're coaching ourselves. But there's another side to it. Sometimes self-talk isn't about logic, it's emotional. Think about those moments when you're frustrated. Come on, why won't this work? Or when you drop something. Really? Again? That's not you asking a question. That's you releasing pressure. It's a tiny emotional vent, like steam escaping a kettle before it explodes. And then there are the pep talks, the quiet ones no one hears. You can do this. It's fine. Breathe. Those are the gentle reminders that pull us back from chaos. Without them, we drown in all the noise inside our heads. Self-talk is our built-in support system. It's how we parent ourselves when no one else is around. What's wild is how early it starts. Kids talk to themselves all the time. You'll see a child playing alone, narrating every move. Now the dragon goes here and the knight saves the day. That's not random chatter. That's their mind learning to think, plan, and problem solve. Psychologists call it private speech. Over time, most of it moves inside our heads, but parts of it never disappear. That inner voice grows up with us, and sometimes it just can't resist coming out. There's also the weird comfort of hearing your own voice. It reminds you you're real. That's especially true when you're lonely or anxious. Talking to yourself gives shape to the thoughts that would otherwise spiral endlessly. You say them, you hear them, and suddenly they feel smaller, more manageable. It's like shining a light into a dark corner of your brain. Of course, it can get awkward when someone catches you mid-conversation with yourself. You might try to cover it up. Oh, I was just, singing. But really, why hide it? Everyone does it. Even the people who pretend they don't. Some just keep it quieter. There's a fun little trick researchers found too. When you call yourself by name, like, "Come on, Sarah," or "You got this, John," it actually helps you perform better under stress. It gives you a little psychological distance, like you're your own best friend giving advice. Imagine that. Being your own motivator, therapist, and cheerleader all in one. And sometimes self-talk turns creative. Writers, actors, musicians, they all do it. It's how they test out ideas, practice emotions, shape characters. Talking to yourself is basically the rehearsal room for your brain. So next time you catch yourself mumbling about dinner plans or arguing with your reflection, don't feel weird about it. You're not losing it. You're just being human. It's how your mind makes sense of the world, one whispered sentence at a time. And if you think that's strange, wait till we get to the next one. The odd habit of fidgeting when nervous. That's a whole different story about how movement keeps our emotions from bursting at the seams. Fidgeting. When nervous. Have you ever noticed how, when things get tense, your body suddenly forgets how to stay still? Maybe your leg starts bouncing, your fingers tap the table, you twist a ring, or click a pen again and again, until someone gives you that "please stop" look. You didn't even realize you were doing it. It's like your body decided to start a conversation your brain wasn't invited to. That's fidgeting, the nervous dance we all perform without meaning to. Some people call it a bad habit, but really it's more like a built-in pressure valve. When your mind starts racing, your body tries to release that energy through small, repetitive movements. It's your nervous system saying, "Hey, I need to do something before I explode." Think about those moments before a big presentation, or when you're waiting for a text that could change your day. You might find yourself shaking your foot or tapping your fingers. It's not random. It's your body's way of managing stress. See, when we get anxious, our brain floods us with adrenaline. That's the same hormone that prepared our ancestors to run from predators. But now, instead of sprinting from lions, We're sitting in office chairs trying to look calm, so all that extra energy has to go somewhere. Fidgeting is the 21st century version of fight or flight, just in smaller, more polite movements. What's fascinating is that even small motions, like twirling your hair or rolling a pencil between your fingers, can actually help the brain focus. Studies show that a little movement during stress helps regulate attention and keeps us from spiraling into panic. It's like the body saying, "Don't worry, I've got this. I'll burn off some of that extra fuel." Of course, not all fidgeting comes from anxiety. Sometimes it's boredom. You're stuck in a long meeting and your brain starts craving stimulation. So you start clicking your pen. Click, 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 because it gives your mind something to anchor to, a rhythm, a distraction, a tiny reminder that time is still moving, even if the PowerPoint isn't. And some people find comfort in objects that are made specifically for that. Stress balls, fidget spinners, smooth stones. Remember when these spinners suddenly became the biggest thing in the world? Adults laughed at them, but truthfully they were a brilliant idea. They gave people permission to move, to release tension without judgment. It's funny, we call them toys, but really they're tools. Ancient tools, just redesigned in plastic and colour. There's also something soothing about repetitive motion itself. Think about how people sway when listening to music or pace while thinking. Even stroking your chin, remember that one from earlier, can fall into the same category. It's the body's way of self-regulating, a quiet signal that says, "Let me think, let me breathe." You can even see it in animals. Ever notice how dogs circle before lying down or how cats need blankets? Those little actions help them settle their energy. Humans aren't much different. We just hide it better under desks and in pockets. Here's the strange twist though. The more we try to stop fidgeting, the worse it gets. Tell someone nervous to just relax, and their leg will probably start shaking twice as fast. Because now they're not only anxious, they're anxious about being anxious. The trick isn't to fight it, it's to notice it, to say, "Okay, I'm tapping my foot because I'm tense," and let it happen for a moment. Once the energy moves through, the body usually settles on its own. So next time you catch yourself doodling, bouncing, or twirling something during a stressful moment, don't feel embarrassed. That's your body helping your mind cope. It's a silent partnership, the physical and emotional halves of you working together to keep balance. And if anyone gives you that look for clicking your pen again, just smile. Tell them it's evolutionary. Because, really, it is. Now, speaking of odd but natural behaviours, ever wonder why people sing like rock stars in the shower? That's another one of those strange little mysteries of being human, and it's a surprisingly joyful one, lowering music volume to see better. While driving. You're driving. You're trying to find an address. Suddenly, without thinking, you turn the music down. Not off, just lower. As if the volume knob somehow controls your eyesight, and logically, you know that makes no sense, yet it feels necessary. That's because your brain only has so much attention to go around. When a task requires visual precision, like spotting a street sign or navigating traffic, your mind starts stripping away anything it considers extra. Sound becomes noise, even if it's your favourite song. Lowering the music isn't about hearing, it's about focus. Your brain is reallocating resources, saying, "Okay, this part matters more right now." It's the same reason people get quiet when concentrating, or why silence suddenly feels heavy in important moments. And the wild part? It actually works. Less sensory input means clearer processing. So even though your eyes don't technically see better, your brain does. So yes, turning the music down helps you see, not because of your ears, but because of your attention. Singing in the shower. Why is it that people who wouldn't dare sing in front of anyone suddenly turn into Grammy winners the moment they step into the shower? There's something about that small, steamy space that transforms even the shyest voice into a full-blown performance. The shampoo bottle becomes a microphone, the tiled walls your audience, and suddenly you're halfway through your favourite song, louder than you've been all week. It's funny when you think about it. You're not on stage. There's no applause. But somehow, it feels right. It feels freeing. And that's exactly what it is. A moment where your brain, body, and emotions sync up in the simplest, most human way possible. The truth is, the shower might just be the most forgiving concert hall on earth. The acoustics are perfect. Sound waves bounce off the tiles and make your voice richer, fuller, and warmer. It's like a natural auto-tune. That echo makes you sound good, so your confidence goes up. And once you feel confident, you sing louder. It's a beautiful little feedback loop of joy. But there's more to it than sound. Think about when you usually sing in the shower, morning, night, whenever you're alone. It's one of the few places where you're completely undisturbed. No phone notifications, no audience, no judgment, just warm water and white noise. That privacy opens a door in your mind that's usually locked during the day. The logical part of your brain quiets down, and the emotional part steps forward. That's where music lives. And here's the weird part. Singing actually changes your body chemistry. When you sing, even alone, your brain releases endorphins, those same feel-good chemicals that come after a good laugh or a long run. Add the relaxing effect of warm water, and you've basically created a mood repair machine. Some people meditate. Others hum Adele under a shower head. Different paths, same piece. It's not just about fun either. Singing in the shower can be surprisingly therapeutic. You know those songs that connect to memories? The ones that make you feel things you didn't even know were still sitting inside you? The shower is where those emotions come out safely. You can belt out your heartbreak, your nostalgia, your hope. No one's there to judge. It's emotional release disguised as daily hygiene. There's another theory too, and it's about breathing. When you sing, you take deeper breaths. You control your air, your posture, your diaphragm. It's the opposite of the shallow, stressed-out breathing most of us do during the day. That's why people often step out of the shower feeling lighter. It's not just because they're clean. It's because for a few minutes they actually breathed. And it's universal. From kids singing theme songs while the water runs to grown adults doing their best rock ballads, this tiny ritual exists in every culture. The songs change, the voices differ, but the instinct is the same: to express, to feel, to let sound fill a space and reflect back warmth. Of course, not everyone admits to it. Some claim, "I don't sing in the shower," but they hum or whistle or mouth the words, because somewhere deep inside, music sneaks out. It's built into us. Our ancestors sang around fires, in fields, in rituals. You could say the shower is just our modern version of that circle. Smaller, steamier, with better acoustics. So next time you step in and the first notes of your favourite song hit your lips, don't hold back. Let it out. Hit that high note even if you can't. Because in that moment, you're not just washing off the day, you're recharging your soul. And if you think singing in the shower is strange, wait till we talk about the next one. Why we yawn when someone else does. That's where science and empathy start to overlap in the weirdest way. Yawning. When someone else does picture this. You're sitting in a quiet room, maybe during a meeting or a long class, and someone across the room lets out a big lazy yawn. You try to ignore it, but suddenly you feel that itch in your jaw. Your mouth opens, your eyes water, and before you know it, you've yawned too. You didn't plan it, you didn't even feel tired, but somehow it happened. Contagious yawning. It's one of those strange universal quirks that make you wonder if humans are secretly wired to copy each other like a pack of sleepy wolves. And funny enough, that's not far from the truth. See, yawning isn't just about being tired. It's this ancient, mysterious reflex that goes way beyond sleepiness. Scientists have argued about its purpose for decades: cooling the brain, stretching the lungs, resetting alertness. But none of that fully explains why it spreads from person to person like a mini epidemic. Here's what we do know. When you see someone yawn, your brain quietly mirrors them. It's not a conscious choice, it's empathy, the invisible thread that connects us. Your body senses what the other person feels and reacts in kind. It's the same reason you flinch when someone stubs their toe, or smile when you see a friend laugh. Your mirror neurons, the part of your brain that imitates what others do, fire up, and your yawn joins the party. What's wild is that this doesn't happen with everyone. You're more likely to catch a yawn from someone you care about, a friend, a family member, even your pet if you're really close. That's right. Dogs can catch human yawns too. They've bonded with us so deeply that our tired faces trigger their empathy circuits. Imagine that. Your dog's yawn is basically saying, "I feel you, buddy." And it's not just a human thing. Animals that live in social groups, chimpanzees, wolves, even birds, show the same contagious yawning pattern. It's like nature's way of keeping the pack in sync. When one gets sleepy, others follow, and soon everyone's on the same rhythm. Safety in numbers, even in sleep. But there's also something beautifully human about it, because yawning together doesn't just mirror fatigue, it mirrors connection. It says, without words, "I see you, I sense you, I'm part of your world." It's empathy made visible, even if it looks a little ridiculous. Of course, once you start thinking about yawning, it's all over. Your brain starts testing the idea like, wait, am I yawning now? And just that thought can make it happen. In fact, reading about yawning, like right now, probably has you doing it too. Go on, I'll wait. You know it's coming. What's funny is how social it is. Try yawning near a stranger and see how many follow. Probably a few. But if you're with your best friend or your partner, one yawn is enough to start a chain reaction. It's the most harmless kind of peer pressure out there. Some scientists even think contagious yawning could be a little test of empathy. People who are more empathetic tend to catch yawns more easily. That doesn't mean if you don't yawn, you're cold-hearted. It just means your brain might process the signal differently. Still, it's amazing how something so small, so automatic, reveals something about how deeply we connect with others. So next time someone near you yawns and you follow suit, don't fight it or feel weird. You're just syncing up, aligning your rhythm, your breath, your moment of tiredness. It's nature's tiny reminder that you're wired for empathy, even when you're half asleep. And hey, maybe now you're yawning too. If you are, don't worry, I am too. But before we drift off, there's another human quirk that's just as funny. That weird habit of checking the fridge over and over, expecting something new to appear. Now that one says a lot about how our brains chase comfort even in the smallest ways, checking the fridge repeatedly. You ever walk into the kitchen, open the fridge, stare at it for a few seconds, and then close it? only to come back 5 minutes later and do it again, like the fridge might have magically restocked itself while you were gone? We all do it. It's such a normal human ritual that it's almost comical. No one ever teaches you to check the fridge repeatedly. It's just one of those things that sneaks into adulthood like paying bills or pretending to understand tax forms. But why? Why do we keep opening that same cold door over and over, even when we know exactly what's in there? At first glance, it's simple. Boredom. The fridge is like a socially acceptable distraction. When you don't know what to do with yourself, your brain looks for a small burst of stimulation. For some people, that's scrolling their phone. For others, it's opening the fridge, hoping for inspiration in the form of leftover pizza. But there's something deeper happening too. The fridge has become this quiet symbol of comfort, a little glowing box of possibilities. Even when you're not hungry, it's familiar, predictable, and oddly soothing. You open it, feel the cool air hit your face, scan the shelves, and for a brief moment, life feels like it's offering you choices. Maybe there's something new in here, your brain whispers. Maybe there's something good. That's the thing. It's not always about food. Sometimes it's about hope. We open the fridge the way we scroll through social media or walk to the window, looking for a small change, something to spark interest, something that feels different from 5 minutes ago. There's even a psychological loop at play. Your brain remembers the tiny dopamine hit you got last time you found a snack, even a small one. Maybe it was a cookie, or just cold juice on a hot day. That reward becomes stored in your subconscious, and now your brain says, hey, let's check again, maybe we'll get lucky. It's the same mechanism that makes people check their phones or refresh their inboxes. The fridge just happens to be the edible version of that habit. And let's not ignore the nostalgia factor. Think about it. As kids, we opened the fridge constantly. That was the place where the good stuff lived. Treats, desserts, juice boxes. The kitchen was the heart of the home, and the fridge was its treasure chest. So even as adults, that behavior lingers. When life feels uncertain, your mind says, go back to the fridge. Something good used to happen there. But there's also a funny social side to it. You can tell a lot about someone by how they check the fridge. Some people open it wide, stand there forever, and stare like they're decoding a map. Others peek quickly and close it like it might bite them. Then there are those who rearrange things, hoping to find something that wasn't visible before, as if the leftovers have learned to hide behind the milk. Sometimes it's not even about food at all. It's about taking a tiny pause. The fridge becomes a neutral zone, a place to breathe. You step away from your work, your thoughts, your stress, and stand there in front of the hum and cool light. It's a mini reset button disguised as a household appliance. And when someone asks, well, what are you looking for? You probably say, I don't know, which is true, because sometimes you're not looking for food. You're looking for comfort, distraction, or maybe just a reason to move. So the next time you catch yourself opening the fridge for the third time in 10 minutes, don't feel silly. You're not crazy. You're human. It's not about hunger. It's about curiosity, routine, and a deep, quiet search for something that feels satisfying, even if it's just cold air and the faint smell of leftovers. And if you think that's strange, wait till you realize how often your brain does something similar, like suddenly remembering an embarrassing moment from years ago for no reason at all. That one's coming next, and trust me, it's weirder than the fridge. Remembering embarrassing moments. Suddenly you're lying in bed, peaceful, half asleep, when suddenly your brain decides to play the most embarrassing moments highlight reel. That time you called your teacher Mom. That awkward wave to someone who wasn't waving at you. That terrible joke you told at a party 10 years ago that no one laughed at. And now, here you are, wide awake, cringing under the covers like it just happened yesterday. Why do we do that? Why does the brain, out of nowhere, throw us into these random scenes from our personal blooper reel? It's almost like our minds can't stand silence. The moment things get quiet, the brain's like, "Hey, remember that one time you totally humiliated yourself?" Thanks, brain. But as weird as it feels, there's actually a reason for it. When you remember an embarrassing moment suddenly, what psychologists call an intrusive memory, it's not because your brain enjoys torturing you. It's because it's trying to protect you. See, the human brain is wired to remember emotional moments more vividly than ordinary ones, especially moments of shame, rejection, or embarrassment. Why? Because those moments once helped us survive. Long ago, being accepted by your group meant safety. Being humiliated meant danger, maybe even exile. So, our ancestors' brains developed a system that stored social mistakes as warnings. Don't do that again. It's an emotional learning loop, and it's still running, even though no one's kicking us out of the village for tripping over our words anymore. The problem is, our modern brains didn't get the memo that most embarrassing moments aren't life-threatening. They still treat them like emotional emergencies. So when your mind suddenly replays that moment from years ago, it's like it's running a safety drill, just in case it happens again. You might notice it happens more when you're stressed, tired, or quiet. That's because when your guard is down, your brain wanders, and that wandering mind tends to drift toward unresolved stuff. Embarrassment is sticky. It lingers. It's unfinished emotional business. Your brain keeps poking at it like a loose tooth, thinking, maybe if I replay it one more time, I'll fix it. Of course, it never does. You just end up groaning at yourself in the middle of the night. Here's the comforting truth, though. Everyone does it. Everyone has those, "Ugh, why did I say that?" flashbacks that sneak up out of nowhere. You're not weird, you're just human. Our minds are hardwired for self-reflection, and sometimes that reflection gets stuck in rewind mode. And if you've ever physically cringed at a memory, like you actually flinched, that's your brain's way of literally trying to shake off the discomfort. That little shudder is your nervous system saying, let's not live there again. It's silly, but also strangely sweet. Your body, trying to protect your feelings. The best way to deal with those moments isn't to fight them. Trying to stop an intrusive memory usually makes it worse. Instead, laugh at it. Out loud, if you can. Treat it like an old friend who's just dropping by uninvited. "Oh, hey, awkward 7th grade presentation, long time no see." When you acknowledge it with humor instead of shame, the brain starts to relax. It realizes you've already learned the lesson, and it doesn't need to keep showing you the rerun. And you know what's even funnier? The people you're remembering probably don't even remember the moment that haunts you. They were too busy cringing about their own embarrassing memories. We're all starring in our own awkward flashback reels, thinking everyone else is watching, but no one is. So next time an old embarrassment pops up out of nowhere, just smile. You survived it. You grew from it. And if your brain insists on replaying it, maybe hum a little tune. You know, like the one you sing in the shower. 'Cause honestly, if you can survive your worst cringe moments, you can survive anything. And speaking of strange emotional reflexes, wait till you hear about why we talk to our pets like they're people. That one says a lot about how our hearts work when words don't quite fit. Feeling an urge to clean when avoiding a task. You have something important to do, a deadline, a responsibility. something that actually matters, and suddenly, the floor looks dirty. The desk needs organising. The kitchen, absolutely unacceptable in its current state. This isn't motivation. It's avoidance wearing a productivity costume. Cleaning gives your brain a sense of control and completion. It's a task with clear rules, immediate results, and no emotional risk. Unlike the thing you're avoiding, which might involve uncertainty, judgment, or failure. So your mind makes a deal with itself. Let's feel useful, just not there. And before you know it, you've reorganized a drawer you haven't opened in years. There's also comfort in physical order. When your thoughts feel messy, cleaning the external world creates the illusion that things are coming together, even if the real task is still waiting. So if you ever find yourself scrubbing instead of starting, don't be fooled. You're not lazy. You're protecting yourself from discomfort. Talking to pets like they're people. You walk into the kitchen, see your dog sitting by the door and say, "Buddy, we've talked about this. I just took you out." Or maybe you catch your cat glaring at you from the counter and you mutter, "Don't even think about it." And here's the weird part, you expect them to understand. You pause, waiting for a reaction, maybe a head tilt, maybe that slow blink cats give when they're pretending to tolerate you. For a split second, it feels like a real conversation. So, why do we do this? Why do humans talk to animals as if they're people, sometimes more sincerely than we talk to actual people? Well, part of it comes down to something called anthropomorphism, our natural instinct to project human emotions, motives, and personalities onto non-human things. It's the same reason we name our cars, yell at the Wi-Fi, or apologize to a chair when we bump into it. But with pets, it goes way deeper. See, animals, especially cats and dogs, have lived alongside humans for thousands of years. Over time, they've evolved to read our body language, tone, and even micro-expressions. When your dog looks guilty after stealing your sock, it's not that he's sorry. It's that he's mastered the art of reading your face. He knows that tone. He knows when you're upset. So when we talk to them, it actually works. They respond. Maybe not to our words exactly, but to the emotion behind them. And our brains eat that up. That mutual understanding, however small, lights up the same areas in our brains that activate during real social interaction. In a strange, beautiful way, talking to pets fills the same emotional need as talking to another human. But there's also something else going on. When we talk to our pets, we're not just communicating, we're comforting ourselves. We're expressing things we might not say out loud otherwise. Think about it. You can tell your dog your worries, your cat your secrets, your parrot your frustrations, and they'll never judge you, interrupt you, or post about it online. They just listen, or pretend to, which is honestly good enough. Some psychologists say this habit starts in childhood. Kids often talk to stuffed animals or imaginary friends. It's how they learn empathy, how they practice understanding other minds. Talking to pets is the grown-up version of that same instinct. It's emotional rehearsal, but with fur. And honestly, it's kind of amazing how pets encourage us to be softer. People who live alone often talk to their pets more than they realize, narrating their mornings, complaining about work, asking questions like, "Do you think I should order pizza again?" It's funny, but also deeply human. Our need to connect doesn't vanish when we're alone. It just finds new listeners. Even science backs it up. Studies show that people who talk to their pets tend to be more empathetic and emotionally aware. Their brains treat pets like family, literally lighting up in the same regions that activate when we see people we love. So yeah, You're not crazy for chatting with your golden retriever about your day, you're just emotionally fluent. And maybe that's what makes this habit so comforting. Because sometimes when words don't fit anywhere else, when you're too tired, too sad, or just too human, saying it to a pet feels right. You can tell them about your dreams, your bad day, your heartbreaks. They don't fix it. They just sit there, breathing softly, letting you exist as you are. So the next time someone teases you for talking to your dog like he's your roommate, don't even flinch. You're doing something ancient, something millions of humans have done for thousands of years. You're bridging the gap between species with nothing but tone, warmth, and love. And honestly, that's kind of magical. Now, speaking of strange conversations, wait until we get into why people talk to themselves. It's another one of those odd human habits that says more about intelligence than insanity. Imagining arguments that never happened. You're in the shower, shampooing your hair, when suddenly, boom, your brain drops you right into a heated debate that doesn't even exist. You're arguing with your boss, your ex, that one friend who always gets the last word. You're making brilliant comeback, saying everything you should have said last time. You win the argument flawlessly, and then step out of the shower feeling like you just lived through a full-blown courtroom drama. Sound familiar? Yeah, you're not alone. Humans love to imagine arguments that never actually happen. It's like our brains have a secret fight club that meets when we're tired, bored, or trying to fall asleep. But why do we do it? Why replay confrontations or build fake ones from scratch? Well, part of it comes down to the brain's obsession with control. Most real-life conflicts catch us off guard. Someone says something that stings, and we freeze. Later, when it's quiet and we finally have time to think, our brain starts rewriting the scene. It's like, wait, I could have said this instead. So it builds a better version of that moment, one where we're calm, sharp, and totally in charge. It's not about pettiness, it's about power. It's our mind's way of restoring balance. But there's more to it. These imaginary arguments often serve as emotional rehearsals. Psychologists call it mental simulation. It's how we prepare for future situations, practicing how to defend ourselves, express feelings, or set boundaries. So when you imagine arguing with someone, your brain isn't just being dramatic, it's training you. It's saying, if this ever happens again, you'll be ready. Of course, sometimes that rehearsal turns into a marathon. You might spend 20 minutes building the perfect speech for a fight that will never happen. And while it feels satisfying, it also stirs up real emotions. Your heart rate rises, your jaw tightens, you even feel angry at a person who's not even there. The brain doesn't always distinguish between real and imagined stress. That's why after an imaginary argument you can actually feel exhausted. It's strange, isn't it? We're built to feel our thoughts. That's what makes humans so creative, but also so prone to overthinking. We imagine conflicts not because we want drama, but because we want peace. And imagining ourselves winning, or being understood, gives us a tiny taste of that peace. Sometimes these fake arguments even reveal something deeper. If you keep imagining the same fight over and over, it's probably pointing to an unresolved emotion. Maybe you never said what you needed to say. Maybe you didn't feel heard. The mind keeps circling back, trying to close the loop. It's not the argument you need. It's the release. Here's the good news, though. You can actually use this habit to your advantage. Instead of letting your brain spiral into imaginary rage, treat it like a mental dress rehearsal. Let the argument play out, but then focus on how you'd actually want to respond. Calmly, clearly, with dignity. The more you practice that version, the more likely you'll bring it into real life. And if you catch yourself mid-argument with the ghost version of your boss while brushing your teeth, laugh. Seriously, just laugh. It's a reminder that your brain's only trying to protect you, to give you a sense of agency in a world that often feels unpredictable. So no, you're not weird for winning imaginary debates in your car. You're just human. A thinker, a feeler, a natural storyteller. Because in the end, every imaginary argument isn't really about the other person. It's about you, about your need to be seen, to be right, to be understood. And maybe, just maybe, that's one argument worth having, even if it's only in your head. And speaking of overactive minds, next time, let's talk about why we zone out and daydream during serious moments. That's another strange habit that reveals just how creative and chaotic the human brain can be, forgetting why we entered a room. You walk into a room, confident, purposeful. Maybe you're going to grab your phone, a snack, or that one thing you just thought of 5 seconds ago. And then, blank. Total mental wipe. You stand there, looking around like the answer is hiding behind the furniture. What was I doing again? You pace a little, stare at the wall, maybe even go back to where you started, and suddenly, bam, you remember. It's almost like your brain needed a reboot. We've all been there. It's one of the strangest, most universal human glitches, forgetting why we entered a room. But here's the thing, you're not losing your mind. This is actually something scientists have studied, and it has a name, the doorway effect. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Walking through a doorway can literally mess with your memory. See, your brain organizes experiences into episodes. When you move from one room to another, it treats that movement like a new chapter, a mental boundary between events. It's saying, okay, that was the kitchen scene, now we're in the living room scene. And sometimes, in that tiny transition, the memory of what you were doing gets filed away too early. In other words, the moment you cross that doorway, your brain presses save on the last thought and opens a fresh page. The problem is, that thought you needed, grab the scissors, find your keys, check the oven, is now back in the last mental file. That's why you can walk back to the original room and suddenly remember again. It's not magic, it's memory context. Your brain recalls things better in the same place it first thought of them. But there's another layer to it. Modern life keeps our brains juggling too many tabs at once. Notifications, to-do lists, texts, noise. So when you walk into another room, your focus shifts for just a second, and that small distraction can be enough to erase your short-term intention. You didn't forget because you're forgetful. You forgot because your brain is efficient. It's constantly prioritizing, cleaning out quick tasks to make space for new ones. Sometimes it just overdoes it. And funny enough, the doorway effect isn't just about physical spaces, it can happen digitally too. Ever open a new browser tab and forget why? That's the same thing. A mental doorway. You moved contexts and your brain hit refresh. There's something kind of humbling about that, isn't there? The mind that can recall your first heartbreak or a random childhood song lyric can also completely blank on why you came into the kitchen. The human brain, powerful, yet hilariously flawed. Of course, this little glitch can be useful too. Ever walked into another room mid-argument and suddenly calmed down? That's your brain literally shifting emotional context. A new space, a new mindset. The same trick that makes you forget your errand can also make you forget your anger. So maybe it's not such a bad trade. If you want to beat it, here's a trick. Say your goal out loud as you move. I'm going to the kitchen for my phone. It sounds silly, but hearing your intention locks it into memory just long enough to survive the doorway jump. Still, maybe we don't need to fix it completely. Maybe it's one of those quirks that remind us we're not machines, that our thoughts wander, drift, and reset, that a single step through a doorway can be enough to start fresh. So next time you find yourself standing in a room, staring blankly, wondering what on earth you came for, just smile. You've just experienced a tiny, harmless mystery of being human. And speaking of those little mental lapses, wait till we get into why we sometimes forget names seconds after hearing them. That one will make you realize just how playful and selective our memory can be, laughing at inappropriate times. You're sitting in a serious meeting. Everyone's quiet, focused, maybe even tense, and then, out of nowhere, you feel it. That awful, uncontrollable urge to laugh. You press your lips together, try to look normal, but it only makes it worse. Your chest tightens, your shoulders shake, and suddenly you're the one person giggling while everyone else looks at you like you've lost it. We've all been there. A funeral, a classroom, a sad movie. The moment least suited for laughter somehow becomes the one moment your body decides it needs to laugh. It's embarrassing, confusing, and yet deeply human. So why does this happen? Why do we sometimes laugh when it's the last thing we should be doing? Well, believe it or not, it's not about being rude or insensitive. It's about how our brains handle emotional overload. Laughter isn't just about humor, it's also a pressure release. When emotions get too intense, whether that's sadness, fear, stress, or tension, your brain looks for a way to diffuse it. And laughter, strangely enough, is one of the most effective ways to do that. Think of it like your mind hitting an emotional safety valve. When something feels too heavy, laughter offers instant relief, a way to break the intensity. It's your nervous system saying, "Hey, this is too much. Let's release some of that energy before we short-circuit." That's why you might laugh when someone trips, even if you care, or when you're nervous during a job interview, or when a serious topic suddenly takes a weird turn. The laughter doesn't mean you find it funny. It means your brain doesn't know how else to process it. This kind of laughter even has a name: incongruous affect. It's basically your emotions crossing wires, laughing when you should cry, smiling when you're scared. It's a glitch, but an oddly functional one. It also connects to something deeper: social anxiety. When we're uncomfortable, our brains go into overdrive trying to manage how we appear to others. Laughter becomes a quick escape, a way to fill silence, deflect tension, or signal "I'm okay," even when we're not. In fact, research shows people often laugh most when they're anxious or unsure, not when they're happy. You can see it in those awkward social moments too. Like when someone says something slightly inappropriate and you laugh just to smooth it over. That's not real humor. That's survival. You're trying to keep things socially safe. There's also a physical element. When you're nervous, adrenaline floods your system. Your muscles tighten, your breathing changes, and laughter, with its sharp bursts of air, is a natural counterbalance. It's your body's way of resetting. That's why sometimes, once you start laughing in a serious moment, you can't stop. It's not rebellion. It's release. And yes, even in moments of grief, people laugh. It's actually one of the healthiest things we can do. Laughter during sadness doesn't erase pain. It coexists with it. It's how the human heart finds light in the dark, how we remind ourselves that even in loss, we're still alive. So the next time you catch yourself laughing at the worst possible time, try not to feel too guilty. You're not heartless. You're just human, a creature built to feel deeply, and sometimes to crack under the weight of feeling too much. Maybe laughter isn't always about comedy. Maybe it's our soul's way of saying, "I can't cry right now, so let me breathe instead." And that's kind of beautiful when you think about it. The idea that even in awkward or painful moments, our bodies still reach for joy, still find a way to let light in. Speaking of emotional reactions we can't control, wait until we talk about why people blush when they're embarrassed. That one's a mix of biology, vulnerability, and something surprisingly poetic about being seen, picking at scabs or skin. You know that moment when you notice a tiny scab or rough patch on your skin, and before you even realize it, your fingers are there, picking at it. You tell yourself, just this once, but 5 minutes later you've made it worse. Now it hurts, maybe even bleeds a little, and you're left wondering, why do I keep doing this? It's such a small, almost mindless habit, but one nearly everyone does at some point. Peeling, picking, or scratching at something that should just be left alone. It's weirdly satisfying, and yet totally self-defeating. So why do we do it? Well, part of it comes from something pretty ancient, the human instinct to groom. Long before mirrors and skin care routines, grooming was a built-in survival behaviour. Early humans picked bugs, dirt, or dead skin off themselves and each other. It wasn't vanity, it was hygiene. That same instinct still lives in us, even though our pests are now more psychological than physical. When you pick at your skin, your brain gets a little hit of satisfaction, like you've fixed something, even if you haven't. It's the same kind of reward loop that makes you pop bubble wrap or scratch an itch that's already raw. It's relief mixed with control. But here's where it gets deeper. A lot of people do it when they're stressed, anxious, or bored. You might be sitting in traffic, overthinking something, or lost in a TV show, and your hand just goes there. It's not even conscious. The repetitive motion and tiny sensory feedback can calm the nervous system. It's your body's way of grounding itself. Psychologists call it a body-focused repetitive behavior, or BFRB. It's in the same family as nail biting or hair twirling. Harmless for most people, but for some, it can become a compulsive cycle. Because every time you pick, your brain feels a quick burst of relief, and that teaches it to do it again next time you feel uneasy. The tricky part is that satisfaction fades fast. What's left is guilt, pain, or even a new scab to pick later. And so the loop continues. It's like trying to fix your skin when what you're really trying to fix is your mood. There's also a strange psychological layer here, the desire for smoothness, for perfection. Picking feels like tidying up the body, like you're removing something that doesn't belong. But the truth is, your body already knows how to heal itself. Every scab is your skin saying, I'm working on it, just give me time. Still, it's hard to stop, isn't it? Because it's not just a habit. It's a moment of control in a world that doesn't always make sense. When everything feels uncertain, that one small tangible act, the scrape, the peel, the fix, gives you a sense of agency, however fleeting. If you ever want to break the cycle, the trick isn't willpower, it's awareness. Notice when you're doing it and what you're feeling right before. Stress, boredom, frustration. Once you name the emotion, you can redirect it. Squeeze a stress ball, rub your hands together, breathe. Give your body another way to release the tension. And maybe, next time you see a scab, try to see it differently. Not as something to fix, but as proof that you are healing. Your body's already doing the work. You just have to let it finish. Because beneath that tiny urge to pick is something deeply human. The need to mend, to smooth, to make things right again. We just sometimes forget that the best kind of healing happens when we stop interfering and simply let time do its thing. And speaking of strange things we do with our hands, wait until you hear about why people bite their nails. That one's another curious mix of instinct, emotion, and the never-ending dance between control and comfort. Feeling phantom vibrations from phones, you're sure you felt it. That tiny buzz in your pocket. You grab your phone, check the screen, nothing. No calls, no texts, no notifications. Weird. You shrug it off, slide the phone back in, and a few minutes later, buzz. Again. Except, it's not buzzing. Congratulations, you've just experienced one of modern life's strangest sensations, the phantom phone vibration. It sounds almost funny, but it's incredibly common. In fact, studies show that most smartphone users have felt it, that imaginary buzz, ping, or vibration that convinces you your phone's trying to reach you when it's not. It's like your brain has developed a new reflex, one that doesn't always match reality. So, what's going on here? Why does your body feel something that isn't happening? Well, it starts with expectation. Your brain has learned that certain sensations, like a faint vibration on your thigh or the rustle of fabric, might mean your phone is buzzing. Over time, this becomes a kind of conditioned response. Your mind gets so tuned in to the idea of phone equals alert that even the smallest physical cue, a muscle twitch, a shift in clothing, the hum of a car, triggers that familiar buzz feeling. In other words, your brain's doing its job a little too well. It's anticipating information before it arrives. But there's also an emotional layer. Our phones have become more than tools. They're extensions of our social selves, messages, updates, likes, all tiny doses of connection. Each buzz means something's happening. Someone's thinking of you. Something matters. And when you haven't felt that buzz in a while, your brain starts imagining it, like a digital form of wishful thinking. It's a modern echo of an ancient system. Our brains evolved to stay alert for signals of belonging. Back in tribal times, that meant watching for eye contact or hearing your name in a crowd. Today, it means checking your pocket, constantly. Some psychologists even call it techno-anxiety, a mild unconscious stress response created by our constant attachment to devices. The brain learns to stay half alert, always listening for the next ping. Over time, that vigilance turns into false alarms. There's also something physical going on. When your phone vibrates in your pocket often enough, your nerves literally get used to it. They adapt to the pattern and can start misfiring, sending a phantom signal even when nothing's there. Kind of like how amputees can feel phantom limbs. Your brain keeps expecting an input it's learned to rely on. It's a strange mix of biology and technology. Our nervous system hasn't caught up to how deeply we've woven devices into our daily lives. But it's not all bad news. Feeling phantom vibrations doesn't mean you're addicted or crazy. It just means your brain's paying close attention. Maybe a little too close. If it starts happening often, a simple fix is to turn off vibrations for a while. Let your body and brain reset. Within days, the phantom feelings usually fade, and you might even notice something else, how quiet life feels without that constant expectation of interruption. The truth is, the phantom vibration is a perfect symbol of modern living. We're connected, but sometimes too connected. Our bodies literally feel the echoes of a world that never stops buzzing. So next time you feel your phone vibrate and realize it didn't, smile at it. It's just your brain trying to keep up, a small reminder that even in a digital age, our ancient instincts are still running the show. And speaking of weird modern instincts, wait till you hear about why people feel anxious when their phone battery is low. That one takes survival instinct to a whole new level, covering mouths. When surprised or shocked, something unexpected happens. A friend tells you wild news, a glass shatters, or someone blurts out something unbelievable. And before you even think, your hand flies straight to your mouth. It's not planned. It's not polite habit, it's instinct. That simple universal gesture of shock, the hand covering the mouth. It's fascinating, isn't it? People do it everywhere across cultures, languages, and ages, from toddlers who gasp in surprise to adults in moments of disbelief. The motion is almost identical. But why? Why do we cover our mouths when we're shocked, scared, or amazed? Part of it comes down to something very old, a kind of emotional reflex. Before language, humans communicated through gestures and expressions. A hand over the mouth might have been a way to show silence, submission, or self-control. A signal that said, "I won't speak," or "I didn't mean that." Over time, that reflex stuck around, turning into a natural way to express surprise or contain emotion. In fact, scientists believe this gesture evolved from our instinct to hide our reaction. When we're startled or overwhelmed, we often lose control of our facial expressions. Our jaws drop, our lips part. Covering the mouth is our brain's instant attempt to contain that raw, involuntary emotion. It's like a split-second filter, as if our body says, "Don't let the feeling escape just yet." There's also a protective side to it. When something shocking happens, our fight or flight system kicks in. We literally feel a rush of adrenaline. The hand-over-mouth gesture may have started as a small form of self-protection, shielding the vulnerable mouth and jaw during moments of alarm. A soft, subconscious way of saying, "Stay safe." But here's what's really interesting. We don't just cover our mouths in fear or shock. We do it when we're amused, embarrassed, or even when we laugh too hard. Think about it. Ever caught yourself laughing uncontrollably and instinctively covering your mouth? That's your brain trying to manage emotion in social spaces. It's a quiet, polite way to say, "Sorry, I can't control this," without using words. In social terms, the gesture also softens impact. When you hear shocking news, like someone's breakup or an accident, covering your mouth communicates empathy. It's an unspoken way of saying, "I'm speechless," or "I can't believe it." It shows restraint, compassion, and connection, all in one motion. Even children do it before they fully learn what it means. Watch a kid who accidentally says something they shouldn't. Their hand goes right to their mouth. That's instinctive guilt and surprise in action. It's their body trying to literally take back the words. And interestingly, the gesture changes subtly depending on the emotion. Shock or fear, the hand is firm, covering completely. Laughter, it's softer, lighter, sometimes paired with a shoulder shrug. Embarrassment, often just fingertips brushing the lips. It's as if your body adjusts the volume of emotion through the way you use your hand. What's beautiful about this reflex is how universal it is. No one had to teach it to us. No manual, no etiquette class. It's one of those rare things that connects humans everywhere. A small, instinctive sign that we feel deeply. So the next time something surprises you and your hand shoots to your mouth, don't fight it. That's your body doing what it's always done, expressing emotion before words catch up. It's the oldest kind of honesty, the kind your body speaks on your behalf. And if you think that's interesting, wait till you hear about why people blush when they're caught off guard or embarrassed. That's another strange but beautiful example of how our emotions literally show up on our skin. No words required. Daydreaming mid-task. You're typing an email, washing the dishes, or maybe just walking to grab something from another room, and suddenly you're gone. Not physically, of course, but mentally. You've drifted into another world, one where you're giving the perfect comeback in an argument, winning an imaginary award or replaying a memory that never actually happened. And then, just like that, you snap back. Wait, what was I doing again? That's daydreaming mid-task, one of the strangest and most human things we all do. It's that quiet escape our minds take when they're supposed to be focused, and yet it happens so naturally, it almost feels necessary. Scientists say we spend up to half our waking hours lost in thought, drifting between what's real and what's imagined. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Half our lives spent not really here, but maybe there's a reason for it. When you think about it, daydreaming mid-task isn't always laziness or distraction. It's often your brain's way of sorting through chaos. The moment your hands are busy but your mind is free, like folding clothes or driving, your subconscious steps in. It starts solving problems, building stories, or replaying moments you haven't quite processed yet. That's why some of your best ideas seem to appear out of nowhere, while showering, cooking, or staring out a window. Your brain finally has space to wander, to connect dots it couldn't while you were trying to think. But sometimes, daydreaming isn't about solving anything. Sometimes, it's comfort, a soft detour from monotony. Maybe you're stuck doing something repetitive or boring, and your brain says, "All right, I'm out, you handle the dishes, I'm going to imagine we're in Italy." It's like mental multitasking. The body stays grounded, but the mind goes exploring. Of course, there's a funny side to it too. Ever found yourself mid-task, deeply lost in a fantasy conversation or movie-like scene, only to realize you've been staring at a wall for 5 minutes? You blink, shake your head, and hope no one saw you. It's weirdly embarrassing, as if someone might have caught you talking to your own imagination. What's fascinating is how vivid those moments can feel. During a daydream, your brain lights up in ways similar to real experiences. That means part of you feels what you imagine, the excitement, the fear, the happiness. It's a rehearsal in a sense, your mind testing scenarios, practicing emotions, preparing for possibilities you didn't even know you were thinking about. But here's the twist. While daydreaming can be a creative gift, it also reveals how fragile our attention really is. We think we're in control of our focus, but our thoughts have their own agenda. One small memory, one random word, and suddenly you're deep in a scene from 5 years ago, reliving something you thought you'd forgotten. Still, maybe, that's not such a bad thing. Our minds wander because they need to rest, to imagine, to create. We're not robots. We're storytellers by nature, even inside our own heads. So next time you catch yourself zoning out mid-task, drifting into some beautiful or bizarre mental movie, don't rush to snap back. Let it happen for a bit. You might just find a new idea hiding there. After all, daydreaming is proof that even when life gets routine, your imagination refuses to be. It's the quiet rebellion of the mind, reminding you that there's always more to think, more to feel, and more to imagine than what's right in front of you. And who knows? That little mid-task dream might be where your next real-life story begins, apologizing for things beyond control. Sorry. It's probably one of the first words we learn to say, and one of the hardest to stop saying even when we don't need to. Think about it. The elevator door takes too long to close. Sorry, someone bumps into you on the street. Oh, sorry! It starts raining right after you invited a friend out. Ugh, sorry about the weather. It's almost comical, how we apologize for things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. But deep down, there's something very human about it. That reflex to take responsibility, even for what's out of our hands, tells a quiet story about empathy, anxiety, and connection. Psychologists say this kind of over-apologizing often comes from a desire to keep peace, to make sure everyone's okay. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that sorry equals safety, that if we apologize quickly enough, we can smooth over tension, prevent judgment, or avoid conflict before it even begins. It's especially common among people who grew up in environments where harmony mattered more than honesty, where saying sorry wasn't just about guilt, it was about keeping balance. Over time, that habit turns automatic. You trip over your own words. Sorry. You can't make it to a gathering because you're sick. Sorry. Someone else's bad mood. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But here's the thing. Apologizing for what you can't control doesn't actually make things better. If anything, it chips away at your confidence. It's like telling yourself, everything that goes wrong must somehow be my fault. And that's a heavy weight to carry for things like traffic, weather, or someone else's emotions. Still, it's not all bad. Sometimes that instinct comes from genuine empathy, a deep sensitivity to other people's discomfort. When you see someone upset or stressed, you might say, sorry, not because you caused it, but because you feel it with them. It's your way of saying, I wish I could fix this, even when you can't. There's also a social rhythm to it. In many cultures, sorry has evolved into a softener, a way to sound polite, warm, or approachable. Sorry, can I squeeze by? Sorry, just one more question. In those cases, it's not really about guilt, it's about kindness. The word loses its literal meaning and becomes a bridge between people. But when it turns into a constant reflex, it can start to backfire. People might perceive you as unsure, submissive, or overly cautious, when all you really are is considerate. That's why many therapists suggest replacing unnecessary apologies with gratitude. Instead of sorry for being late, try thanks for waiting. Instead of sorry for talking too much, say thanks for listening. The message stays kind, but the tone shifts from guilt to appreciation. It's a small change that can rebuild self-respect without losing empathy. What's funny is, once you start noticing it, you'll hear sorry everywhere. In conversations, emails, even text messages. It's like a tiny echo of collective guilt we all carry, just for existing in each other's space. But the truth is, you don't need to apologize for things you can't control. You don't need to feel guilty for taking up space, for being human, for not fixing the unfixable. So the next time your instinct says sorry for the rain, or the traffic, or someone else's bad day, pause for a second. You can still care deeply without carrying the blame, because empathy is beautiful, but self-forgiveness, that's power, mirroring other people's posture or expressions. Have you ever noticed that during a conversation, you start sitting the same way as the other person? They cross their arms, you do too, they lean forward, suddenly you're leaning too. You didn't plan it. It just happened. This is called mirroring, and it's one of the most subtle social behaviors humans have. We copy each other without realizing it, because our brains are constantly asking, are we safe here? Do we belong? Mirroring builds trust. It sends a quiet signal that says, I'm like you. And the other person's brain feels it, even if neither of you can explain why the conversation feels comfortable. This behavior goes way back. In early human groups, similarity meant alliance. Moving together meant survival. And today, that same instinct plays out in coffee shops and meetings. The strangest part. The more we like someone, the more we mirror them, and the more they mirror us back, the more connected we feel. It's a loop of silent agreement. So next time you notice someone copying your posture, or you copying theirs, Remember, that's not awkward. That's your brain building a bridge. Checking the time, but forgetting it. Immediately, you glance at your phone or your watch. Maybe you even squint at the clock across the room. You see the time, nod slightly, and 2 seconds later someone asks, "Hey, what time is it?" And you have no idea. You check again, almost embarrassed. It's one of those tiny universal mysteries. Well, why do we check the time and instantly forget it? It's not like we didn't see it. We literally just looked. So what's happening between that glance and that blank moment afterward? Turns out it's not memory failure, it's attention failure. When we check the time, we're usually doing it on autopilot. We're not really trying to remember it. We're just trying to reassure ourselves that time still exists. The brain notes the number, decides it's not urgent, and tosses it out before it even reaches conscious storage. Think about when you usually check the time, waiting for someone, counting down to a break, hoping a meeting's almost over. In those moments, your emotion is what's active, not your focus. You're impatient, bored, or anxious. You look at the clock not to memorize, but to measure your feeling. It's your mind saying, "Is this over yet?" Not, "What time is it exactly?" And that's why, a few seconds later, you can't recall it. You weren't really checking the numbers, you were checking your state. It's a bit like scrolling through your phone absent-mindedly and realizing you didn't actually read anything. The motion happens, but the mind isn't there. You're physically present, mentally miles away. There's also something called inattentional amnesia, which sounds like a bad excuse but is very real. When your attention is scattered, like when you're multitasking or lost in thought, the brain skips the step where short-term data gets stored. You saw it, but it never saved. In fact, the more often you check the time, the less likely you are to remember it. That's because repetition without purpose makes the act meaningless. It's like your brain saying, "Oh, this again? We've already done this." And so it stops bothering to file the information. It's even worse when you're waiting for something, like a text, a delivery, or the end of a shift. Each time you check the clock, your brain expects change. When it doesn't see it, or sees too little, it tunes out. You're no longer checking to know the time, you're checking out of restless habit. But this forgetful little reflex isn't all bad. It's actually a window into how fast our brains filter information. Imagine if you remembered every glance, every number, every detail of every minute. You'd be overwhelmed. So your mind chooses, it saves what matters emotionally and quietly deletes the rest. Still, it's funny how often this happens. You might check the time 3, 4, even 5 times in a row before it finally sticks. Like your brain needs a second to say, "Okay, fine, I'll remember it this time." There's a kind of poetry to it though. We're so busy measuring time that we often forget we're inside it. We keep glancing, hoping it'll move faster, hoping we're closer to something. The end of work, the start of rest, the moment we've been waiting for. Maybe that's why we forget. Because deep down, we're not trying to know the time, we're trying to get through it. So next time you catch yourself checking your watch and instantly forgetting, smile a little. It's not just forgetfulness, it's proof that your brain is busy being human, half here, half elsewhere, living between the seconds while time quietly keeps moving forward, feeling like someone is watching you. You're walking down a quiet street at night, or maybe just sitting at your desk with your back to the room, and suddenly that feeling hits. A chill, a prickle at the back of your neck. You don't hear anything, you don't see anything, but somehow, you know, someone's watching. You turn around, nothing, just stillness. But your heart doesn't believe it. That strange, alert tension lingers, like your body knows something your eyes don't. It's one of those eerie, ancient sensations we all experience, that sense of being observed, even when we're completely alone. And what's wild is, it's not superstition, it's science. Humans evolved to feel watched. It's part of our survival wiring, a built-in alarm system from the days when being watched often meant being hunted. Our ancestors who could sense eyes on them, even before seeing a predator, had a better chance of staying alive. That hyper-awareness, that itch between your shoulder blades was once life-saving. So even today, in offices, bedrooms, or empty hallways, our brains still run that ancient software. It scans for the tiniest cues, a shadow shift, a creak, the subtle silence that feels off. And if it doesn't find anything clear, it fills in the blanks. Your mind whispers, someone's there. But here's the twist. Our brains are terrible at handling uncertainty. When the data is unclear, the imagination steps in. That's why the feeling of being watched is strongest when visibility is low, at night, in dim light, or when your back is turned. Your senses go on high alert. Your pulse quickens, and your mind paints possibilities where none may exist. Interestingly, psychologists say this sensation also ties to something called the gaze detection system. Humans are incredibly sensitive to eyes. Even without realizing it, we can sense when someone's gaze lingers on us, through small cues like direction of faces, subtle movements, or even energy shifts in social spaces. That's why you sometimes feel someone staring, turn around, and actually catch them. Your subconscious picked it up before your conscious mind did. The accuracy of that instinct is surprisingly high, but not perfect. In ambiguous moments, your brain sometimes fires the alarm just in case. There's another layer too, self-awareness. The more self-conscious or insecure we feel, the more we think others are watching us. It's called the spotlight effect. You spill coffee on your shirt, stumble over your words, and instantly feel like everyone noticed, even when no one did. It's your mind magnifying attention because you're focused on yourself. That's also why the feeling fades when you relax. The moment you stop worrying about being seen, your brain quiets down. It's not just about external threat, it's about internal focus. When you're calm, you stop scanning for danger. When you're anxious, every shadow becomes a possibility. Of course, movies and stories make it worse. Centuries of ghost tales, horror films, and folklore have trained our imaginations to fill the dark with eyes. Even silence starts to sound like breathing when your nerves are high. But in a strange way, this feeling connects us to something ancient. That primal intuition, the one that kept early humans alive in wild forests and open plains. That same spark still hums beneath our modern lives, reminding us that we're built to sense before we see. So the next time you get that eerie feeling that someone's watching, take a breath. It's probably not a ghost or a hidden camera. It's your brain doing what it's always done, protecting you, scanning for eyes, trying to keep you safe. It's the oldest kind of awareness, the echo of a time when feeling watched wasn't creepy. It was survival, repeating songs in their head, earworms. It starts innocently enough. A catchy tune on the radio, a jingle from a commercial, maybe just a line from a song you heard hours ago. You hum it once, and then it's over. Or so you think. A few minutes later, it sneaks back in. The same melody, the same lyrics, over and over and over. You're brushing your teeth, checking emails, trying to fall asleep, and your brain just won't stop playing that one line. Congratulations, you've got an earworm. It's a funny name for something so common. Scientists call it involuntary musical imagery. But let's be honest, earworm fits better, because that's exactly what it feels like. A little tune burrowed deep in your head, looping endlessly, refusing to leave. But why does this happen? Why does your brain turn into a broken jukebox without your permission? The truth is, your brain loves patterns, especially musical ones. When you hear a song that's catchy, repetitive, or emotionally charged, your brain starts to predict what comes next. If something interrupts before the pattern feels complete, your mind keeps replaying it, trying to finish the sequence. That's why earworms often stick after you hear only part of a song, a chorus, a hook, or even a rhythm from a commercial. It's your brain saying, "Wait, we didn't get closure, let's play it again." It's the same reason you might find yourself mentally singing the same lyric while doing something unrelated, cooking, driving, showering. Those quiet, semi-automatic moments are perfect for the earworm to sneak in. When your brain isn't fully occupied, it fills the silence with sound, and it's not always random. Sometimes earworms reveal what's happening emotionally. Feel anxious? You might loop a fast, energetic song, feeling nostalgic. Suddenly that childhood tune reappears. Music is emotional glue. It sticks where feelings live. Interestingly, people who are more creative or musically inclined tend to experience earworms more often. Their brains are constantly scanning for rhythm and melody, even when they're not consciously listening. It's like having a built-in radio that never turns off. But the most fascinating part? Earworms usually loop unfinished fragments. That's why they're so annoying. Your mind can't resolve them. It's stuck mid-song, like a thought that can't find its ending. So how do you stop it? Well, there's no perfect cure, but a few tricks help. One is to finish the song. Listen to it all the way through. That gives your brain the closure it's craving. Another is to switch to a different tune, something neutral or boring enough to overwrite the loop. And sometimes distraction works best. Reading, talking, or even chewing gum can break the rhythm pattern in your mind. Of course, not all earworms are bad. Some are comforting. That familiar hum when you're nervous, that quiet tune in your head when you're walking home, it's like your brain's background music, a reminder that even in silence your mind keeps you company. Still, we've all had that one song that drives us crazy, the one that won't go away no matter how hard you try. You can almost feel it grinning at you from the back of your skull, waiting for you to hum it again. But here's the secret. The more you fight it, the louder it gets. Because what the brain resists, it repeats. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let it play out, hum the last note, and move on. So next time a song gets stuck in your head, don't get too frustrated. That's just your brain being, well, musical. It's trying to finish a story it accidentally started. Besides, maybe there's something kind of magical about it, that we can carry music inside us, even without a single note playing in the air, cringing at their own voice recordings. You hit play. Your voice comes out of the speaker, and instantly your entire body tenses. You wince, maybe even laugh awkwardly. Do I really sound like that? It's one of the most universal reactions in the world. Cringing at the sound of your own recorded voice. No matter how confident you are, that moment always feels a little strange, almost like hearing a version of yourself you didn't know existed. But here's the weird part. That is your real voice. Everyone else hears you that way. You're just the only one who doesn't. The reason it sounds so foreign comes down to physics and psychology. When you speak, You hear your voice through two different paths, one external and one internal. The external is what everyone else hears. Sound waves travel through the air, hit your eardrums, and get processed by your brain. But internally, your voice also travels through the bones and tissues of your skull, which amplify the lower frequencies. That's why in your head, your voice sounds deeper, warmer, and more balanced. When you hear a recording, that inner vibration is gone. What's left is the raw external version, higher pitched, thinner, more nasal. It feels off because your brain has spent your entire life listening to the filtered, bone-conducted version. So when you hear your real voice, it's like meeting a stranger who just stole your identity. No wonder we cringe. But it's not just the sound itself. It's also what the sound represents. When we listen to a recording, we're not just hearing tone or pitch. We're hearing our personality reflected back at us. Every awkward laugh, every nervous inflection becomes a mirror of how we think we sound. And that mirror can be brutally honest. Our voices carry everything: confidence, hesitation, humour, insecurity. And when we hear them outside ourselves, we notice things we usually ignore. The little quirks we thought were charming suddenly sound exaggerated. The pauses feel longer. The laughter sounds forced. But really, it's not that we sound worse. It's that we're not used to objectively hearing ourselves. It's like seeing a candid photo when you were expecting a portrait. You imagined one version of you, composed, smooth, familiar, and instead you get the unfiltered reality. What's interesting, though, is that musicians, podcasters, and actors often stop cringing over time. They adapt. The more they hear their recorded voice, the less foreign it feels. Their brains start to accept that external version as part of their identity. So maybe that discomfort isn't about vanity, it's about unfamiliarity. There's also a deeper emotional layer. We associate our voices with self-expression. So when we don't like how we sound, it feels like we don't like a part of ourselves. That's why it stings more than just hearing an off-key note. It's personal. But here's something to remember. Everyone else has always heard you that way, and they're perfectly fine with it. To them, that's your normal voice, the one they connect with, laugh with, trust. The one that carries your personality, not your pitch. So maybe the next time you hear yourself on a voice note or a recording, try to listen differently. Instead of focusing on how strange it sounds, listen for what it communicates. The warmth when you greet a friend, the curiosity in your questions, the emotion hiding between words, because underneath that awkwardness, that, ugh, is that really me? Moment, that is you. Just not the version trapped inside your skull. It's the version everyone else gets to hear. And maybe that's kind of beautiful, that your voice, even if it makes you cringe, is still the bridge that connects you to the world. Staring at someone until they look back. You're sitting in a cafe, half bored, half distracted. Your eyes wander, and suddenly they settle on someone. You don't mean to stare. It's just a glance at first. But then your mind drifts, and your gaze doesn't shift. A few seconds pass. Then, right when you're about to look away, they look back. Boom! Instant panic. You snap your eyes elsewhere, pretend you were focused on something else, maybe even grab your phone for cover. But it's too late. They noticed. We've all done it. That strange, silent game of accidental eye contact. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes attraction, sometimes pure zoning out. But whatever the reason, there's something oddly magnetic about looking long enough for the other person to sense it. And here's what's fascinating. That moment isn't magic or coincidence. It's biology. Humans have evolved to detect eyes, literally. Our brains have a built-in system called the superior temporal sulcus, which helps us sense when someone's gaze is aimed at us. Even from the edge of our vision, we can feel when eyes are on us. It's a survival instinct, ancient and powerful. In the wild, being watched could mean danger, a predator lurking nearby. Those who sensed eyes early survived longer. Fast forward to today, and that same system still flickers on, even in safe spaces like coffee shops and classrooms. That's why, when you look at someone long enough, they'll often turn around, almost like their instincts pick up the signal. Is not just in your head, it's literally wired into theirs. But let's be honest, sometimes staring isn't about instinct. It's about curiosity. Humans are drawn to faces. We read stories in them, emotions, memories, personalities, all in a few seconds of observation. Maybe you're trying to figure someone out. Maybe they remind you of someone. Or maybe for a fleeting moment you're lost in thought and their face just happens to be your anchor. Of course, when they notice, reality crashes back in. The spell breaks. And that's when the embarrassment hits. Because staring is one of those social boundaries that feels instinctively delicate. Too short, it's invisible. Too long, it's strange. And yet every culture recognizes it. That invisible timer of eye contact, the difference between interest and creepy, is almost universal. But what's really strange is how charged that moment feels. When two people lock eyes unexpectedly, there's a rush, a jolt of awareness that both are suddenly seen. It's intimate, electric, even if nothing happens afterward. In that second, you're not just observing each other, you're acknowledging each other's existence in the same slice of time. That's why movies love to use eye contact. It's storytelling without words. Because deep down we all understand that a look can mean 1,000 things. Curiosity, recognition, challenge, desire, fear. It's one of the oldest languages we have, but sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes you just zone out, eyes fixed, mind miles away. The person turns, catches you, and you're pulled out of your mental fog like a kid caught doing something odd. You look away fast, your brain screaming, "Don't make it awkward." But of course, it already is. Still, there's something oddly human about it. That tug of war between curiosity and self-consciousness, the desire to see and not be caught seeing. So next time you catch someone's gaze, or they catch yours, don't overthink it. It's just two humans wired by millions of years of evolution, momentarily colliding in awareness. And who knows, maybe they were staring at you first, randomly remembering old conversations, you're washing dishes, or scrolling your phone, or just zoning out before bed, and suddenly, bam, your brain drops a memory on you like an unexpected package. That awkward conversation you had years ago. Maybe it's something you said that came out wrong, or a joke that fell flat, or that time you tried to sound confident and ended up sounding, well, not. You wince, shake your head, and mutter, "Why am I thinking about this now?" It's like your brain has a twisted sense of timing, serving up the most random, unnecessary replays of life's small embarrassments right when you least expect them. But here's the strange thing, it's not just you. Everyone's mind does this, and not out of cruelty. There's actually a reason for it. When your brain suddenly reminds you of an old conversation, it's often running what psychologists call memory reconsolidation. Basically, your mind occasionally checks in on old memories to strengthen or rework them. It's like updating old software, except the glitches are emotional ones. And here's the twist. It doesn't always happen because of guilt or regret. Sometimes it's triggered by a subtle cue, a smell, a tone of voice, even a certain lighting that matches how things looked during that old moment. Your senses tug a thread, and before you know it, your brain's playing back a highlight reel from 10 years ago. Of course, it doesn't feel scientific when it happens. It feels personal, almost unsettling. Because the memories that pop up most often are usually emotionally charged. Times when you felt embarrassed, nervous, rejected, or out of place. Why? Because your brain labels those moments as important learning events. That's right. Your cringe is basically your mind's way of saying, let's not do that again. But the funny thing is, you've probably already learned that lesson long ago. You don't need the reminder. Yet your brain, ever alert, decides to bring it up again, just to be sure. It's also why the tone of these flashbacks feels so vivid. When you remember a conversation, you don't just recall the words, you relive the scene. You hear your voice, feel the room's temperature, sense that awkward silence again. Your brain doesn't file these away as facts. It stores them as experiences. So when it reopens the file, you're back in it, fully. And that's why you can be brushing your teeth in 2025 and still suddenly think about something you said in 2014. Sometimes, though, it's not about embarrassment. Sometimes those random memories are gentle. A laugh you shared with someone who's no longer in your life. A deep talk under streetlights. A voice you can still hear, even though years have passed. Those come back too, the warm ones. It's like your brain keeps a playlist of emotional tracks and every so often it hits shuffle. The truth is your mind doesn't have a perfect filing system. It's messy, fluid, and alive. Memories don't sit quietly in drawers. They move, bump into each other, and spark associations. That's what makes us human, the ability to drift between past and present in the blink of an eye. So the next time your brain ambushes you with an old conversation, don't resist it. Let it play. Smile at the absurdity of it, that your mind, after all these years, still finds that moment worth revisiting. Because maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's proof that you've grown, that you can now look back, cringe and laugh. After all, that random replay is just your brain's way of saying, hey, remember how far we've come? Liking the smell of gasoline or markers. You know that strange moment. You're at a gas station, the air heavy with that sharp chemical scent, and instead of pulling back, your brain goes, huh? That actually smells kind of nice. You might glance around to see if anyone noticed you inhale a little too long. But don't worry, you're not strange. Or at least, not alone. Lots of people quietly enjoy the smell of gasoline, markers, paint, or even nail polish remover. The question is, why? Let's start with gasoline. When you open the pump, it releases compounds called aromatic hydrocarbons, especially one known as benzene. It's the same chemical responsible for that sweet, slightly intoxicating odour. And aromatic isn't just a fancy term. It literally means it has a ring-shaped molecular structure that interacts with your nose in a unique way, producing that oddly pleasant scent. But there's more to it than chemistry. See, our brains love novelty. Smells that stand out, that feel strong or different, tend to trigger a kind of sensory curiosity. When you breathe in something intense like gasoline, your brain lights up in the same areas linked to memory and emotion. That's why it can feel oddly nostalgic, even soothing. Think about it. Maybe your childhood included trips to the gas station on family road trips. Maybe that smell blended with the excitement of travel, your parents' laughter, or the hum of the car engine. Years later, your brain can't separate the chemical from the comfort, so it confuses danger with nostalgia. The same thing happens with markers or permanent ink. The scent of solvents like toluene or xylene is strong and distinctive. It's not good for you, but your sensory system doesn't automatically judge something based on safety. It reacts first with curiosity, then connects it to whatever memories or feelings it recalls. And sometimes it's not nostalgia, it's sensation. These smells trigger a tiny rush in your limbic system, the emotional center of your brain. For a second, your brain experiences it as a kind of mini high. Not enough to make you dizzy, just enough to make the world feel sharper, cleaner, strange. It's also about contrast. Gasoline and markers have a smell that's the opposite of natural. No sweetness, no softness, no warmth. It's chemical, industrial, artificial, and somehow our brains find that intriguing. Humans have always been drawn to things we don't fully understand, even smells that tell us, hey, this probably isn't good for you. But here's the kicker. This isn't an addiction or a hidden craving. It's just a quirk of the senses. A reminder that our noses, like our minds, aren't purely logical. They associate, blend, and reinterpret. There's something poetic in that, isn't there? That a scent born from combustion or plastic could make us feel strangely alive for a moment. That we could stand in a gas station, the world spinning with cars and fumes, and think, I kind of like this. Of course, moderation matters. No one's saying go sniff markers for fun, but recognizing that this odd little preference is deeply human, that's okay. It's one of those strange universal quirks we rarely discuss, yet almost everyone secretly relates to. And maybe that's what makes it beautiful, this reminder that even in the artificial, our senses find meaning. That somewhere between memory, danger, and curiosity, our brains whisper, don't worry, I've got this handled. So next time that smell hits you and you catch yourself taking one extra breath before walking away, just smile. You're not strange. You're just human, wired to find wonder in the weirdest places, saying bless you. After sneezing, you're in a quiet room when someone sneezes. Without thinking, you hear yourself say bless you, just like that. Automatic, polite, human. But have you ever stopped and wondered, why do we even do that? It's one of those tiny social rituals we all take part in, yet most of us have no idea where it began. And the history behind it, surprisingly odd. The origin goes back centuries, long before modern medicine. People once believed that sneezing was more than just a reflex. It was a moment when the soul might leave the body, or when evil spirits could slip in. Saying bless you was a quick charm, a small protective spell. You were essentially wishing someone safety, health, and protection from unseen threats. Then there's another layer. During the Middle Ages, the bubonic plague swept across Europe, killing millions. Sneezing was a sign of sickness, sometimes the first sign. Pope Gregory the Great reportedly urged people to say God bless you after a sneeze, hoping to protect the ill from sudden death. A simple phrase became a spiritual shield. Even today it remains, though almost nobody thinks about spirits or plagues. It's habit, culture, and social politeness wrapped into one. When we say bless you, we're signaling awareness, empathy, and shared humanity. Sneezing is sudden, uncontrollable, a little awkward, and bless you is society's way of softening that moment, showing I see you, I care, all is okay. Interestingly, the tradition shifts around the world. In Germany, people say Gesundheit, meaning health, which focuses more on the practical wish that the sneezer stays well. In some cultures, the response is more poetic or playful, a recognition that life's small interruptions deserve acknowledgement. There's also a fascinating social psychology angle. Saying bless you reinforces connection. It's a micro-interaction that says, you exist, I see you, and I acknowledge your presence. In a way, it's a tiny ritual of civility, a shared human recognition that we are part of the same world. And of course, it's almost reflexive. Try it. Someone sneezes, and your mouth moves before your brain even catches up. That's because humans are wired for mimicry and social coordination. Your brain notices a sudden action in someone else, like sneezing, and automatically creates a social response. It's funny when you think about it. A sneeze, which is nothing more than your body clearing irritants from your nose, has inspired centuries of tradition, superstition, and etiquette. Something so ordinary has layered meaning, spiritual, social, cultural, all packed into a single phrase. And yet, despite all that history, most of us barely notice. Bless you is just another word we drop automatically, like hi or thank you. But beneath it lies centuries of human belief, fear, care, and habit. So the next time someone sneezes and you say it without thinking, pause for a second. That tiny phrase is a bridge between history and today, between strangers and friends, between bodies and beliefs. A sneeze might be just a sneeze, but bless you, that's humanity in action. And if you think about it, that's oddly comforting. Even in a world that feels fast and impersonal, a little acknowledgement, just a simple bless you, can remind us that we're seen, we're noticed, and we're part of something bigger, feeling secondhand embarrassment for others. You're scrolling through a video, watching someone stumble over their words in a presentation, trip on a curb, or mistakenly send a text to the wrong person, and suddenly it hits you. A deep, visceral cringe. And the kicker, it's not even your error. You're feeling embarrassed for them. This is what psychologists refer to as vicarious embarrassment, or more casually, second-hand embarrassment. It's that strange, uncomfortable sensation you get when witnessing someone else's awkward moment. And yet, it feels real. You might squirm, cover your face, or even groan aloud, all for someone else. But why do humans do this? It begins with empathy. Our brains are wired to mirror emotions, to feel what others feel. When someone blushes, stumbles, or socially slips up, your mirror neurons, tiny cells that replicate observed actions, fire as if you were in the same situation. Your body doesn't always know the difference between them and you. You might tense up, your stomach churns, your cheeks warm slightly. It's as if your brain says, I've got to feel this too. It's also connected to social norms. Humans are incredibly sensitive to embarrassment because it's tied to social acceptance. When someone breaks an unspoken rule, talks too loudly in a library, mispronounces a word, commits a faux pas, your brain flags it as a minor threat to group harmony. You feel that tension because evolution favoured individuals who could read social cues effectively. Feeling embarrassment for others is like a rehearsal. It teaches you what not to do. Interestingly, the intensity of second-hand embarrassment depends on your relationship to the person. Strangers, you might chuckle or squirm a bit. Friends or family, you might feel it more deeply because you care about their reputation and well-being. That discomfort is a blend of empathy and personal investment. It doesn't stop at real life. Videos, TV shows, even animated characters can trigger second-hand embarrassment. That's because your brain doesn't need physical presence to activate those same mirror neurons. If someone looks or sounds genuinely awkward, Your body reacts, instinctively placing you in their shoes. Sometimes this feeling can be overwhelming. You might get physically tense, jaw tight, shoulders stiff, as if you're bracing for the moment yourself. And yet, that tension serves a purpose. It helps humans navigate social dynamics safely. By feeling embarrassment for others, you internalize social rules without having to make every mistake firsthand. It's like free training in human interaction. But there's also a humorous side. Everyone experiences these moments, and the shared recognition, "Oof, that's me too sometimes," creates a bond. Laughing about someone else's faux pas can relieve tension and foster connection, especially when empathy is mixed with understanding that humans are, by nature, imperfect. And the beauty of secondhand embarrassment is that it's a deeply human trait. It reflects not just empathy, but social intelligence, self-awareness, and connection. Your mind is quietly saying, "I care about others, and I care about our shared norms." That's why it's both cringeworthy and kind of comforting. So next time you feel that awkward jolt when someone else messes up, recognize it for what it is. Your brain practicing empathy, your body rehearsing social grace, and your heart connecting, in its own strange way, to another human being. Because even when you're not the one embarrassed, that cringe is proof you're alive, aware, and beautifully human.